Welcome to Project 2. We're going to do a maze game called Pirate Ship Peril. You've certainly played maze games before. All they do is they feature a maze as a background. One such game is here you can see Pac-Man. A lot of the things we're going to do in this maze game you've already done before in Project 1. But in the maze game we're going to have 2 levels. We're going to sink the ship when it hits the maze, and we're going to have a time limit, and we're going to make title and lose screens, win and lose screens. So some of these things you've done before, and some of these things are new. So what you'll do is you'll click a start button, you'll take a ship, and you'll try to maneuver it through the maze without sinking it. And you have a timer that gives you so much time to get your ship through the maze, as you can't hit the maze. And once you hit the X, it takes you to the next level. And then you have another maze to navigate, and this is your game. In Lab 1, we're going to make the title screen for our pirate ship game. So I open up my Adobe Flash, and I make sure that I'm choosing ActionScript 2. Not ActionScript 3 or anything else. ActionScript 2. When my screen opens, I go File, Save As. Then I go find my resources. I go to Project 2. And I call this one Pirate Ship Peril. Now to make your game look like the one in the example, we have to do a bunch of things. First, we have to get rid of these panels. Although I know some of you guys like to use them, just drag them onto the stage and close them out. And then we take Library and we drag this onto the stage. And then we dock it above the properties. I just come up here till I get a blue bar at the top, a single blue bar, not a box. And this just pushes this down here. So now this looks like the example in the class. Now all I need to do is I need to go and get my library. I go File, Import, Open External Library. Then I go get my pirate ship my pirate assets. Open that up. And I'm going to put it just like I did the last game. I'm going to put all of them from here over to here. So I click on the first one. I hold down my Shift key, and I click the Shift and click the last one. So that selects all of these. Can you drag them over individually? Yes. But this way you can drag them all over as one group. I get the green box, I release them, and they're all copied. I'm just going to check it. My first one's required, and my last one should be Title 5. So I check it out, it's good. I can close out the external library. We're going to proceed a little differently with Pirate Ship Peril than we did with Zoo Escape. In Zoo Escape we created the game first, then we made the title screen. In Pirate Ship Peril, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the start screen, and then we're going to make the game. So now I'm going to work with my background layer. I'm going to call layer 1 background. I'm going to click it. I'm just going to call it background. So now I'm just going to click in my background layer, and I'm going to go grab my background and drag it onto the stage. Now I'm going to line it up, right? Window, align. So I'm going to align it to the left, and I'm going to align it to the top. Make sure this check mark's going to align to the stage. And then I'm going to minimize this. The next thing I'm going to do is add a new layer. So I come down here and click my Add a New Layer button, and I call this layer Text. on this layer, I drag my title. I'm here for title. And I put it up here. Now I align it. I go Window, come down to Align. Click Align to the top. And I click Center. That's a center button right here. Now we're going to look at something that a lot of people kind of ignore when they build games. You want to make sure that people can read your text easily. So this text has a strong contrast, white on black. This has a weak contrast. It's hard to read. When we're going to choose a text color for our next frame here, you're going to want to do something that stands out. You don't want to have it look like this. You want to have something that's easy to read. Another thing we're going to play with is fonts. Fonts is the kind of type that you use to write things with. And you do different things to set different moods. And it's always fun to play with. It just controls the way the text looks like. We're also going to use what's called text alignment. You've seen this before. A left aligned text lines up with the left margin, and the right is ragged. Right aligned text lines up with the right margin, and the left edge is ragged. Centered aligned text lines up with the center, and both the right and the left edges are ragged. Justified text, on the other hand, lines up both the left and the right margin, and you see weird spaces like this. You'll see this a lot with newspaper text, but they put spaces in here so that you get straight margins on either side. So this is what another thing we're going to be playing with. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the instructions for the game. So I'm going to come over here to my toolbar, and I choose my text tool. Now see, it says static text here. If it says dynamic text, change that to static. And I want to, let me pull this up so you can see the whole text box here. Okay, you want to make sure that this is set to use device fonts here and anti-alias. Always make sure that your anti-alias for us 5.5 and 6 users is set to use device font. Alright, so I want to choose a font I like. They have Arial. I want to set this as bold. I want to do this regular. They have size 12. I want it bigger. I want it 18. So I can set this to 18. They have red. I want something that'll stand up against yellow, which is purple is a contrasting color for yellow. So I'm going to find me a purple color. Oh, like that. Okay. So I'm all set. So now I just import my, bring in my AS copy code. So I go Open. I push Project 2 copy code and I click Open. So now I'm going to copy my copy code here from 4 to 6. I do a Control C for copy. And I come back here to my pirate ship Peril. And I'm going to right click paste. The next thing I want to do is I want to center this, obviously. So I'm going to choose my selection tool. I'm going to click on my well, let me see, I'm going to shrink this a little bit. So I'm going to go View, zoom out, and I'm going to grab my sizing handles here. Now all I do is hit my Align button, Window, Align, and I say I want it to be centered. Make sure that Align to Stage is checked. Now, once I think I'm done, I'm just going to click out in the gray area here. Then I'm going to click up here in the text box. Make sure that I don't have any weird little blue boxes around here because I don't need them. And if I do see them, I just click them and erase them. Okay, so everything's set up. I need to do a new layer now. But first, let me lock my old ones. Let me click the lock button. Now I'm going to add a new layer. And I'm going to call this a buttons layer. Okay, I'm going to click here. I'm going to take my start button. I'm going to drag it on my stage. And I'm going to line this one up. And I'm going to click center. Okay, well, we're at the end of lab 1. If we run this game, nothing's going to happen yet, but you'll be able to see what the button looks like in its overstate. So let me bring that up. So now I click, you see, nothing's going to happen because you haven't programmed anything, but see, your start button has those states. So check your work. Make sure that your buttons, text, and background layers are locked. If you want to make any changes to the title, unlock the layer you want to change. Make the change. Change the color text. If things aren't looking the way you want them to, you do it now. Welcome to Lab 2. In Lab 2, we're going to create level 1 of your Pirate Ship Peril game. So you know if you have a level 1, you probably have a level 2, right? Just make it increasingly difficult. Get a little more challenge for the player. To this date, all we've worked with has been keyframes. We've done blank keyframes and regular keyframes. We're just going to insert a regular frame. See this little square? You've seen them before if you've accidentally made a mistake and entered a frame. We can enter a frame, and all it does is it carries whatever was on the frame before it. In this background, if we have this frame here, whatever's in the background in frame 1 is going to appear in frame 2. So that's a handy feature to have. So I'm going to lock this layer and unlock this one. And I'm going to come over here. And now you can go to the menu like they want you to, but I just like to right click. I right click and I just insert a regular frame. Just like that. It's easy to do. So now when I click on that frame, I have the same frame here on this layer. So there you see I fixed my text. My text shouldn't be showing. I had it on the background layer instead of the text layer. All I did was I cut it and then I came by my text layer and I pasted it on there. So now what you're going to do is you're going to make a game stop. Make sure you're in frame 1. Come up here and put in here stop. Parentheses and your semicolon. Then click enter. Okay? So just check your blue check mark. Make sure you did it right. It should clean you back. Now before I can code the start button here, I need to name it, don't I? So I'm going to name the instance. I'm going to unlock my button layer here. I'm going to click on my first frame. Click on my button. See where it says instance name here? I'm going to name this start button. Make sure you spell it right. So you've called it. Now, no spaces or anything in there, right? I'm going to lock this back up and I'm going to go back to my first frame. Don't code the button. Don't code the button, okay? Just come back up here, make sure your action code says stop. Okay? It's not gonna work if you go put your code on the button. You gotta have it up here on your code layer. That's why you have a code layer. Later on, you're gonna code the ship itself, but that is not now, okay? So now we're going to put our code in here. I'm going to give me an extra line. I call my start button, what we just named, right? Start button. Put my period here, and just like before, I'm going to put on release. If I spelled it right, it should come up there. So now I'm going to put function in. Let me expand this so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, equals function. You have your parentheses, your curly braces, and you do what? Your curly brace, opening curly brace. Go down a couple spaces. See, it automatically puts in a closing brace. If it doesn't, you put in that closing brace, all right? So now what are we going to do? Remember, we're going to put in our go to and stop command. Now, just like we did our other program here, we're going to put in our go to and stop. And where are we stopping at? Not the lion room. We're stopping at level 1. And put your semicolon in. Okay, now I'm going to check my syntax button. It clicks me back and it says everything's okay. So that means I wrote this right. So double check your code. All right, so now we're going to run our script. Okay, so your box shouldn't go back and forth anymore. Okay, if it did, your stop command isn't working. Maybe you wrote it in ActionScript 3 like you weren't supposed to. Or maybe you just didn't code it right. As I click the start button, it should take me to level 1. You notice the ship keeps sinking. We'll handle that in the next lab. Okay, if your action code didn't work, check your capitalization, check your spelling, check your punctuation, make sure you have an opening and closing curly brace, make sure that what's blue is supposed to be blue and what's green is supposed to be green. Okay, if it doesn't work, make sure that you've labeled your rooms right. This should be level 1. Spelt level 1 like that, okay? And your button should be called start button, right? Remember we did the start button here? This button should be called start button. Just like that. So check your work. Make sure your project's on track to end lab 2. Make sure your title screen appears when you test the game. If it moves to level 1, we just click the start button. Make sure all your layers are locked and save it.